Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, WeatherTech, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb. Welcome, everyone, to MotorWeek podcast number 198, closing in on that big 200. And around our odd-shaped table in Studio C at MotorWeek World Headquarters, we have writer-producer Brian Robinson.
Truly an honor to be here.
Should say weird-shaped table, or we're weird. Online content coordinator Greg Carlos.
That's me.
Road test producer Ben Davis, no relation.
Thanks for having me.
Or is that just what we want you to think?
We're not even uncles.
We're not even uncles. All you folks writing in with questions, no, Ben is lucky he does not have to claim me as part of his clan. And our video producer and editor, Joe Ligo.
Good to be back.
And welcome back, Joe.
Also no relation.
Also.
Yeah.
All right. This show is all about our Driver's Choice Awards and what happened in Chicago at the big auto show. This is every year we go to the Chicago Auto Show and announce the winners of our Driver's Choice Awards, and you see them on the show. But we thought we'd talk a little bit about each one of them, and it's a fairly long list. If you don't know what our awards are, they're a little different from some of the others. We basically look at the categories people actually buy cars in and pick the vehicle or vehicles that we like the best in that category that we've driven over the last year and sometimes over the last 2 years if they're a repeat winner. And we covered just about the gamut. This year we did expand things a bit because of the popularity of utilities. We'll get into that in a moment. But let's start at the top with the smallest selection, our best small car, Kia Forte. So why did we pick that?
I think it offers quite a bit for not a ton of money. I mean, speaking for the millennial generation, it's got style. It has technology that a lot of people want, not just people of my age. And then if you compare it to a Corolla, and this is personal preference, I just think it has better style. I think it drives as sporty, if not more sporty, than a Corolla.
Oh, I think so, too. It's always had a European flavor. And you mentioned style. They really upped the look of the current car, the new car. It looks a lot better.
Yeah, we definitely picked it for its sportier edge, and you can get that in manual. Am I wrong there?
Depends on the trim level.
Yeah, the ultimate base car
there.
is the only one you can get manual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the fact is you can still get it.
And the transmission is one of the better CVTs out there. It's actually their own design. They sunk a lot of money into developing that. So.
And I think it's a car that sometimes gets lost in the sauce when shopping for small cars. People think Kia, but yeah, it's up there with Civic and Corolla if you're looking for something a little different. That's still a great little car.
And it's got a better warranty, too. But there were a lot of reasons that we picked it for best small car, and I think that going around the table there pretty much sums it up. One level up, best midsize sedan. We talk on the show all the time about midsize sedan sales being down, and one of the reasons is that small sedans have gotten so good. But let's face it, everybody wants an SUV. But Nissan has not shied away from the challenge to keep producing better and better cars. The Nissan Altima, new generation. I think they did a fabulous job with it. It's a good-looking car. It has more technology. What do you guys think?
Two big pluses are the VC turbo engine that started in Infiniti and then trickled down to Nissan.
You want to explain that just a tad bit?
It's the variable compression engine that has all the tech wizardry that allows it to get better gas mileage by
class
changing
exclusive.
Yeah, changing the displacement or whatever as
Right.
it runs. But and then also all-wheel drive is a first. And I know that in the northern areas, my parents live a little further north than here. They like sedans, but if they're going to get one, they want it to have all-wheel drive. So that's a big plus for them that would maybe stop them from buying an SUV instead.
Yeah, I think they've stepped up to, taking a look and say what Subaru has done and said, there's room in that market for more than one player. And the Altima just seemed to keep progressing and keep pushing what the midsize sedan can be while everybody else is either kind of playing it safe or getting out of that market altogether. All right, this one was really kind of a no-brainer. The Mazda MX-5 Miata is our best convertible. It's won so many times before. I think it's probably won that category easily more times than anyone else. This year, it just between the RF and everything they've done to the car, it just walked away with the award.
Yeah, the RF they added last year, that's why I won. This year, They put a few more horsepower in there. What, 25?
26, I think,
26,
yeah.
something like that.
That's a substantial amount.
It is for that car.
Yeah, but it didn't overwhelm the chassis. I mean, we know that's a great chassis. Still fun to drive. Maybe it doesn't have quite the feel of the original, but still nothing else out there that compares with it, really.
You know, it's kind of sad when you look around that the number of affordable open-air vehicles is very, very small. And, you know, when you look at the Miata, it's heads and shoulders above just about everything else. And I'm not, you know, looking ahead to next year, and a couple of the ones that were out there have already been discontinued. So, Miata rules. Best luxury sedan. This was a surprise until we all drove it. Best luxury sedan, Genesis G70. And I know it was a little bit controversial in our shop because we love the way it drives as a sports sedan, but I got to tell you, I thought that when you first pop in it, not really knowing exactly what to expect, I was pretty overwhelmed with the interior.
Yeah, it's definitely over the top. It's got great street characteristics as well, too. We recently took it to the track as well. I was impressed at the track, not as impressed as I was on the street. In my opinion, it's a better, maybe better suited for a tighter autocross setup where you can really take advantage of the amazing brakes and good balance, more so than big straightaways and high-speed stuff. But overall, solid, really, really solid car.
Very comfortable. I've driven, we've had like 3 different versions of it in now. They've all been very comfortable, very luxurious feeling.
I think it's
And you
worth
can get
noting
a,
the Stinger relationship.
Right, it's based on a shortened version of the Kia Stinger chassis, but the G70 is the only one you can get a manual transmission in. So.
And we just finished driving that. That was pretty. It's a nice shifter. You know, when you consider so many of the what's left in manual shifters today are fairly numb. Had a good feel. All right, the car that was around our office a little controversial, but another big surprise for us was Best Sports Sedan, and that went to the Made in America Volvo S60. And I think we went in expecting a nice, you know, typically Volvo understated over delivery and safety and technology 4-door, and came away thinking, wow, this is quite a car.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly has the style of a sports sedan, keeping with that XC90 design language that really kind of started the whole thing. Beautiful flowing lines. The proportions are good. It's just like a mini S90, which is great. All the interior tech that you want, and yeah, surprisingly fun to drive.
You know, that what they're doing with their powertrains is really pretty outstanding. The car that particularly that we drove, I guess, the most was a T6R design with all-wheel drive, and there was just nothing we didn't ask that car to do that it didn't deliver, as well as a lot of other better-known European sports sedans. So, and it's made in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah, that's the craziest part is the feedback I've heard from. I didn't actually have the chance to drive it myself, but everybody said good things about it. And then also, it's bizarre to think it's a Volvo that isn't made in Sweden or China, which is, you know. That's not why it won, but that's just an interesting aside on it.
And they've got the Polestar twin-engine T8 coming too. So, congratulations to the Volvo S60. If there was one car I would bet surprised us the most, it has to be the Hyundai Veloster N. You know, the Veloster's a nice little oddball, you know, 3-door sport coupe, but here comes the N. I thought it felt like a totally different car and easily capable of keeping up with just about any other hot hatchback out there.
Yeah, we had that car at Roebling Road, and I was surprised at the getting in it, how legit it's not just trim and color and nice little stickers and stuff. It legitimately has upgrades to make it more performance-minded.
Yeah, the two things that I noticed that I was expecting to kind of be very Hyundai was the shifter and the exhaust note, and both of those were better than expected. The shifter was great, I thought, especially for track work, and it sounded really nice. I mean, so far away from any Hyundai you've ever heard. I mean, this thing sounds really good, I think.
You know, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, next podcast we're going to talk about it a lot more, but yeah, it's a fun car down at the track, ton of quarter speed. Like Greg
racetrack
said, the shifter was great.
is not normally a great place for a front-wheel drive car.
Not a big high-speed one like that generally, but yeah, it held up well. Brakes held up well. Yeah, no complaints.
Stay tuned to the next podcast to hear the full breakdown.
I'll say everything differently than
It
what I
was it was a terrific chance to it is a terrific car. It was a terrific performer at our track. Speaking of performance, best performance car. This is an award that usually goes to something from Detroit, and recently it seems to be almost a lockup by FCA. Last year was the Dodge Challenger SRT Demon, and this year best performance car goes to the Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Red Eye. Now, who would like to talk about what's the difference between the two?
Well, you mentioned the Demon. The Red Eye has the Demon's engine slightly detuned, and then from there it's regular Hellcat, and with a little improvements in the handling department and some different body things. So.
It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Red Eye is more oriented to track work, whereas the Demon's more drag strip.
Well,
which, I mean, track in quotation
right.
marks.
That's
It's still a
certainly-
Challenger.
That's certainly the case, but I mean, I'm
Still
not
a big,
sure.
heavy car.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's that much more track worthy than any of the other Hellcats as far as the road course, because you can get the wide body or not with the Red Eye. You don't have to get the wide body, but it handled itself better than the original Hellcat on the track for sure.
I never thought the Challenger would have this kind of longevity, but they just keep finding more ways to make it faster and better. And it's kudos to when you really step back and look at American muscle cars. This is kind of like a resurgence that's going on, and they're leading the pack, I think. All right. Much more global kind of performance is how we characterize our best eco-friendly car. This is the Honda Clarity, and pretty simply, there seems to be a Clarity for just about everyone. But the roots of this car are pretty deep, right?
That was the main reason, just the choice. There's probably better plugins out there. There are probably better EVs out there, but you can get an EV, you can get a plug-in, you can even get fuel cell Clarity if you want. And Civic based, so
it's
fun
got
to
a
drive.
competent
Yeah, and
chassis.
they made the interior a little nicer just so people wouldn't think they were just in a Civic.
They've slotted it in between the Civic and the Accord, so they've kind of given it some of the luxury touches of the Accord, yet it's not that much bigger than a Civic. But, I mean, actually, when you see it on the street, it looks like a pretty big car.
And I admire them for being dedicated to hydrogen. I know everybody seems to think batteries are the way to go, but there's still some holdout, especially on the West Coast, thinking that hydrogen still has promise. And, I know it's not cheap to design fuel cell cars, so who knows? They might turn out to be right in the end.
We expanded our utility awards this year. We have Best Small Utility, Best Large, Best Luxury, and this year we added the Best Midsize category. So we've now got 4 SUV categories, which just simply makes sense since almost everybody wants an SUV these days. And frankly, we could probably add another one if we wanted to and still not satisfy everybody.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the Best Small Utility. Next year, Brian. Best Small Utility, a pioneering name that's come back with a new generation, Toyota RAV4. What makes this RAV4 special?
Benny D can probably speak more on that. He drove. I didn't spend a whole lot of time in it, but mainly as far as visually, they just tried to make it a lot more rugged looking. I know that.
I agree. It does have a very edgy look inside. Everything's nice right angles and straight lines inside, and it looks rugged like a truck, which a lot of people, the market is heading more towards trucks and
They
utilities.
borrowed a lot of the styling from the pickups.
Yeah, but they were careful to make it handle like a car and feel like a car on the inside. The steering is light like a car. It's a weird blend, if you will, because you have a huge view of the hood from the wheel, so it feels like you're driving a truck. But the steering is super light and responsive. It's heavy on center like a sportier car. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. There's no reason to be afraid of it if you're not used to driving trucks, big trucks, and that kind of stuff, because it handles and feels like a car.
And there's a hybrid model coming.
And, yeah, it's an overall...
Which the hybrid one is, well, take it with a grain of salt, but it's supposedly more sport-oriented. The Super Bowl commercial for it was sort of saying it's the sport hybrid.
It doesn't have more horsepower or better acceleration numbers.
Yeah, and there's even a sportier version of the hybrid as well, like a
So-
sport trim version.
Once that's actually out and we drive it, we'll see how we feel.
We
about
haven't had that many all-wheel drive hybrids out there, so SUVs. So actually, I think it's much like the original RAV4. So I kind of pioneered the whole small crossover routine. I think this is a trendsetter too. Okay, best midsize utility. Our new category went to the vastly improved Ford Edge, including the addition of the first performance model in its size and price class with an Edge ST. Any overall response to it? What do you think makes it stand out besides that?
When I first heard you say the first performance like SUV, I'm like, is it
In that class.
And then I thought it is, because otherwise
There is
everything
nothing
else
else.
you have to go up to a luxury SUV to get a performance-minded one.
Your response was exactly the same thing that I did the very first time I heard Ford make those claims. But you do your homework, and that's pretty much right.
Yeah, or then there's things like the Jeep Cherokee Trackhawk and Dodge Durango.
For tons more money.
Yeah, well, Durango SRT, not that much more, but it's three row, 7 passenger, so not quite the same category. But I didn't spend a whole lot of time in the Edge, but it is surprising that with all the performance-oriented SUVs and all the SUVs out there, that there really wasn't anything really nailing that niche down, which I guess they now are.
I think they did a good job, though, on comfort. It looks nice, and that's fine, but the comfort on the inside, the seats are better. It's full of high tech. It's got the entire advanced safety suite that Ford's come up with. They just look like Ford seems to be, when they redo something, even a mild refresh, they throw a lot at it, and they're delivering more than what we all expected, I think, and they've done it again with the Edge.
And that segment looks to heat up with Blazer and Passport and other 5-seater mid-sizes.
Yeah, the Blazers, they've already
Blazer's
shown like a
nice.
high-performance version of that, too, because they're...
My wife really likes. She saw one in a dealer showroom recently, Blazer.
Maybe next year. All right, our best large utility is a repeat winner, the Volkswagen Atlas. I love the Atlas. I think they have taken that 7 and 8 passenger 3-row and just done a fantastic job with it and backed it with a warranty that's very hard to beat. We put a lot of miles on the long-term one that we had. I can't seem to get enough of it myself. But how about
That's
something
probably why
else?
I only get to drive it like once.
That's right. I've been hogging it. I fully admit it.
I was definitely surprised that this was a repeat winner, and it really wasn't
There's
even
a lot
that
out
much
there.
of a vote because we drove so many 3-row SUVs, stuff and new ones that into the segment like Subaru Ascent and things like that. Everyone seemed to love, but man, when it came to voting, everyone was just like Atlas.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I wish I knew.
Part of it is the way it feels. It feels like a Volkswagen, and I mean that in the most positive ways.
Yeah,
it's tight.
The
It's got a little bit of golf in it.
We're all big fans of the MQB platform.
And the interior just had a ton of space for the physicals outside. It's almost minivan-like inside.
It's a true fold flat rear, and it's easy to get to that configuration.
I think, considering how late to the party Volkswagen's been when it comes to SUVs, especially big ones like this, it's home run, and 2 years in a row. So congrats, VW Atlas. Best luxury utility, the Jaguar I-Pace. Clearly not like any other, utility out there, and I think utility's a stretch in some ways. It's a beautiful looking 5-door hatchback that happens to be all EV and still a Jaguar.
Yeah, after seeing it, I was like, this is not an SUV. It's just a hatchback. Why are we calling it an SUV? But more time I spent with it, there's a ton of space inside. They did a great job making it feel very SUV-ish when you drive it. And, you can jack the ground clearance way up. We were fording streams and climbing rocks with it. So all-wheel drive system, super capable, and just a great Jaguar.
2 years ago we were talking about or 3 years ago, how, with the exception of Tesla, nobody was offering an SUV with much more than 100 miles worth of range. And now here you've got not only things like the Chevrolet Bolt, but then you've got the Jaguar I-Pace, 230, 240 mile range, to the point where you feel comfortable driving it all the time. If they can just get more of those super fast chargers out there, I think, SUVs or any kind of car with a full EV can reach its potential.
It's coming. I mean,
Yeah.
Jaguar beat all the Germans to the race, but
Yes, they did.
all three of the big German brands have got EVs, SUVs coming. So
As do Cadillac and probably things we haven't heard from Ford and FCA. Best pickup truck. Was it almost unanimous or unanimous? Ram 1500.
Pretty darn close.
the only
Yeah.
decision we made was whether we included the compact Ranger in there. It really, among full size pickups, it wasn't really any vote. I mean,
It really wasn't. I mean, I am a big fan of the new Chevrolet Silverado, and I think it had a ton of technology in it that we've never seen in a truck before. But living with a Ram 1500, you realize that that's nice, but Ram said, what do we need to do for the personal use buyer to continue this great trend we've got of making this the new American big family vehicle?
Yeah.
And they did it. I mean, when they put the coil springs in at the rear, that was one thing. But this year, with the interior that's a knockout and all the extra features they added, there was just no competition.
anybody that gets in that rear seat is always like, "Oh, I
Whoa.
can't believe how much room."
Yeah.
is back there."
It's
Truck's really
Yeah.
quiet too inside.
It's unreal how you're right, because the Silverado, you think, man, this is going to be like the new best-selling truck, and then the Ram just comes along and just lays it on thick with,
And
they didn't have a lot of bells and whistles. It just has luxury, and it's big,
Well,
and it's quiet, and it's fast.
But
and
let's
it's
give them
comfortable.
credit. There is a lot of new technology in it. It's the only pickup truck you can get out there with a 48-volt electrical system. So it comes with, not standard as a mild hybrid. I think it's standard on the 6 and optional on the 8.
I guess you're right.
That's high-tech stuff.
The tech is definitely competitive
hidden.
with the other trucks, but that's not the selling
It's not
point.
in your face. They don't make a big deal.
No.
Right.
No.
The Chevy maybe tried
Except
to use
for
this,
that's the big center stacks tablet.
but no, that's it. I had it over Christmas break and to help move into our house, and man, that thing is just so nice just for driving around with nothing in it. It's just way more comfortable than anything I've driven
turns a
in
lot of
while.
heads.
Maybe it's just because I live in Carroll County, but I get asked more than any other thing, like which full size truck should I buy, Ford, Chevy, or Dodge?
You'd think it was Texas.
Everyone wants to know, and really, there's no wrong answer. I mean, that's one thing that
Yeah.
American car companies do is make great trucks. So there's really no wrong answer.
Okay, our final regular category is best dream machines. We always pick 3. I'll rattle off the first ones. I'll say all 3. We pick the Bentley Continental GT. We pick the Ferrari 812 Superfast, and we pick the Porsche Panamera. All 3 were the contenders if you go out and win Powerball. Which vehicle do each of you of those 3 like best?
Having spent so much time in pretty much every Panamera, I'll take that one just because it's everything. I mean, you can drive it on the track if you want to. If you go up into like a GTS or maybe even the top of the line e-hybrid Sport Turismo. The only thing that really puts it in Dream Machine is the price, because it's just so great to drive on the street. I like the way it looks, specifically to the Sport Turismo. So yeah, that was my favorite pick for Dream Machine.
Go ahead, Ben.
Shocker.
I'd do the 812 Superfast, but I'd probably visit last year's win and buy that 4x4x4 Benz truck that we had.
G-Wagon.
The last of the old generation G-Wagon.
I like to keep it retro.
I like the Bentley Continental GT. I mean, I've always liked the Continental GT. This latest generation just seems to be, they notched it up. They didn't do anything crazy to it, and it's just a gorgeous car.
In a world where every celebrity YouTuber owns a Lamborghini or a McLaren,
Do man.
there's something Ferrari has done a good job of keeping their cars exclusive. You see way more Lamborghinis than Ferraris, and for me, I think that's the appeal of the Superfast. Is you're not going to see one at every Cars and Coffee like you will with a Huracan.
I wonder if that'll change when they come out with their SUV.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'll take mine in red. The silver one we tested, I just think if it's a Ferrari, it's got to be red.
Is it just me, or is every YouTuber's Lamborghini green?
Yeah.
Brian, do you have a pick, or is this
I'm good. I
not
don't have
pickup
anything to
truck
add.
enough for you?
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I thought the Panamera was kind of weird because we drove so many awesome 911s. I'm not sure I would dream over Panamera. But as far as an everyday car, I guess it was a good pick. Like
And
you said.
something that you
Lot
can
of
actually put a
options.
family in.
Yeah.
And that leaves one more category, our best of the year, which we just announced at the Chicago Auto Show, and that falls to the Jaguar I-Pace. For all of the reasons that we talked about it being best luxury utility, I think we all came away just thinking, you know, this car is so amazing. Even if it wasn't a utility, no matter what it was, it would probably win whatever category it was in. And it just seems to outpace everything else. Sorry, pun.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but other comments. I mean, we talked a lot about the I-Pace.
I drove it. I mean, it's all Jaguar, but it's also all EV. It's
very
super
fast.
quiet and super fast and controllable and really nice inside. We haven't even talked about the interior because I know some of the lower buck Jaguars we've drove, the interior is a little but this one, full out, super comfy, super techy without being overwhelming. I think it's a great mix inside.
Before someone, gets on our case and says, well, Tesla got there first. It's very true. The Tesla Model X did. But this is smaller. I think it's more manageable. I think it drives better.
Cheaper.
It's less expensive.
Doesn't have
It's
goofy
much
doors.
prettier. Yeah,
Much prettier.
Yeah, it runs on all. Not another pun, John. Runs on all cylinders. So the I-Pace
Run on
was
any
our
cylinder.
MotorWeek. I know. Thank you. Our MotorWeek Driver's Choice 2019 Best of the Year, the Jaguar I-Pace. Thank you, one and all, everybody at this table, and then a lot of folks that you haven't met on our staff. Took a lot of time in voting, and we basically see about 150 different cars a year. So narrowing it down to a list is tough.
Too much.
Let's change gears. We have a viewer question from Stuart.
On a roll today.
And my wife and I are semi-retired and love to travel. Lucky you. He hates flying. Lots of people do. They have a 2007 Hyundai Entourage that has served them for 12 years, but they're looking for a replacement. What is a comfortable, safe, moderately priced minivan or SUV best for long-distance travel? Well, we just mentioned one, the Volkswagen Atlas. What else would you suggest?
The thing long distance stuck out to me because all the first stuff I thought of were things SUVs maybe on the sportier side. But then if you're just chugging away at highway miles, I don't know if I have a great answer on that. Maybe
I
the
think
Odyssey.
the Pacifica. We don't have a minivan category, but we've gone back and
Yeah,
forth
some
over the
years,
years between the Chrysler Pacifica and Honda.
If you wanted to keep it Kia Hyundai, I was really impressed with the last Sorrento that we had in.
Oh, well, they also have the Kia Telluride and the Hyundai Palisade. They're brand new.
If you wanted to tone it down a little bit in size, you could go for the Kona. That comes in some interesting.
right.
That's probably too small for what they want.
Yeah, I was thinking more,
It's hard to say.
if you want to keep it in the minivan, no SUVs are moderately priced. They're all way overpriced because people can't get enough of them. As far as minivans, the Sienna, it may not be our top pick when we do
It's all-wheel
comparisons.
drive.
But you can get all-wheel drive. It's older design, so sales are, not what they were, so they're cutting some good deals on them. I know somebody at the Baldwin recently got a super good deal, and it's a very comfortable minivan. It may not have quite as much tech as like the Odyssey, but if you're looking for dollars, it's a good way to.
Yeah, Stuart, if you're on a fixed income, that's great advice.
Sometimes I think minivans have a little more legroom. Sometimes just the way the seats are set up and the floors
Depends on
can
which
be flat.
side you sit in.
Oh, really? The passenger side has more or less
No,
room?
less, I think.
Oh.
It's cool. He's already ahead of the game because there's so many people who absolutely refuse to even consider a minivan.
Right.
It's cool if somebody who's actually considering a minivan, and then we can always suggest SUVs because there's just so many of them. But there's just so many people I talk to who refuse to even consider a minivan.
Yeah.
And there's people with families and who don't understand of the benefits that come along with one.
Sliding doors are.
Of course, that brings
load
what,
floors.
what is
Yeah.
like the ultimate
Especially
road
with
trip
Pepsi.
car? Like not even any category if you're
Well,
going long distance.
my brother-in-law and my sister, they bought a Chrysler minivan a couple of years ago, and they use it as a camper. Didn't do anything to it, but the middle seat folds into the floor. Nobody else does. They have it as a passenger vehicle during the week, and on the weekend they fold everything under the floor and go camping in it. So,
I'd do a Wrangler. That would, to answer your question.
For road trips?
Wrangler.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yikes.
He's a
Power to you.
Say that.
rough and tumble guy
Which,
there.
by the way, almost did steal best convertible, as I remember.
Yeah, I did.
There was an
I
argument
did.
there, yeah.
The new Wrangler's
I
very
voted for the
nice.
Wrangler.
I always bring it up in that category, and then everyone says I'm stupid because
Everybody says go back to your office.
Right.
All right, thanks, Stuart. I think you got a lot of feedback there. I hope it helps. Anyone got a rant and rave this week? Anything in particular? We've had some snow and bad weather. Anybody's driving habits drive you crazy?
I got a little something unless somebody's got an honest to God.
No, I'm
rant or
quite
rave.
content.
I've always got one in the chamber.
Go ahead then, man.
Yeah, real quickly.
You commute a long way.
Just from this morning. When a lane's eventually going to end and you have 3 signs that say so, and somebody waits all the way to the very end, no turn signal, and just like doesn't even really merge into that lane, just kind of follows the line like they're just in a daze. And just eventually gets in the lane. And when I'm behind, there's like that weird distance of like, all right, I know this person's going to want to get over, so just do it. And then there's an awkward.
Just let them have it.
Yeah, and then if you
and then it's like, oh, I really don't want to do
If you blow by,
that.
which is probably the smart solution, it's the safest.
Yeah.
You're seen as a jerk for just blowing by. Or if you wait and you're like right up on them, you're also a jerk. So
Door to door.
what I'm saying is, it's just like, don't wait till the last minute. Just be prepared.
That
Make
3
intentions.
extra seconds is not going to make any difference.
I'm thankful it was you behind that guy instead of a like-minded person behind that guy, because then they would have. That's how accidents happen.
Yeah, and then it closes the beltway for 2 hours.
Go ahead, Benny G.
Oh, mine's just kind of a quirk. My daughter just bought a 2012 Camaro, and I guess.
Starting her off well, yes.
No, this is her second car.
is it?
She's almost 20, but
She paying for the insurance?
yeah, she's paying for all of the car, everything. Yeah.
Yikes.
Good for her.
Anyway, I guess just by being 20 and being brought up in a hatchback SUV world her whole life, she called me a few days after she owned it, and she said, "This thing doesn't have a rear wiper."
Why do you need one?
I'm like, yeah. It
Remember
doesn't.
though, when fastback coupes used to have rear wipers? There were a few out there.
Yeah, I think like the WRX or no, the Evo had one.
Was
right?
there a Supra that had one? But anyway,
Yeah, the Super had one, but that was more like a hatch. I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
hatchbacks will have a wiper, but I think the Evo had a trunk and had a wiper, but it's a Japanese
Laser.
market thing.
I've never been
rear
in
wipers.
a coupe or a sedan I've ever felt needed
Yeah,
one.
so-
Usually
Yeah.
it just
The quirkiness is she just automatically assumed everything had one because everything she's ever experienced has had one.
and she missed it.
And yeah, I mean,
Did you duct tape one on there for her?
no, but if a car it kind of is, it does have a slant, a hatchbacky slant to
absolutely.
it.
And
So it could benefit from one.
Yeah, it's got a lot of class.
weight savings, bro.
Yeah.
Could be
Hashtag America.
She could start a new trend. Who knows? All right, that wraps up our podcast number 198 here at MotorWeek Central. I want to thank all the folks around our table, Brian Robinson, Greg Carlos, Ben Davis, and Joe Ligo, who's also our producer. I want to thank our audio engineer, Jillian Kutchman, for making us all sound halfway literate, and our podcast creator, Bob Mixter. Thanks for watching MotorWeek and for listening to MotorWeek, and you can catch us on public TV stations around the world, or at least in the U.S., and also on the Motor Trend Cable Network. Till next time, I'm John Davis. Drive safely out there, and thanks for being a part of MotorWeek.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, WeatherTech, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.